Perfect. I'm just
I can't see the screen, but I can hear you.
Perfect. That's all that matters. And then I will send out the slideshow afterwards. So you guys, if you want, you can go back and watch it for those of you who can't see it. I'm getting a lot of feedback. So if can you guys mute your own line so that you can mute and unmute? If I mute you, then I have to physically unmute you too. I just hear, I don't know what it is. It sounds like wind or something. Okay, I don't hear it anymore, so that's good. And you're not unmuted, but I don't hear it. So perfect. So everybody can see that's on there. Perfect. You can hear me. Good. So coaching. This is again, we've talked about it a lot as we've gone through. And we've actually already started identifying some of the people that you want to coach. So a lot of you are ahead of the game, which is fantastic. But during our planning calls, like I said, a lot of us, we talked about who will be the next leaders on your team, right? Identifying them. And I bet those people need your help to get there. In fact, we all know they do, right? So with the Avon Coach approach and some of the skills that you are already practicing in your selling conversations. So, going back to that conversational selling, right? You can be the coach that helps them achieve their dreams. So, this is our agenda for today. We are going to go through support, the second S in boss, because that's part of coaching. It is your support that you're giving to your team. The knowing who to coach next. So, how are we identifying those people and why? The Avon coach approach. So, what is our approach to them? What have we developed before you begin coaching? So, having that plan before you start, the coaching interaction and what that's going to look like. And then again, coaching is like selling. So we're going to compare it to conversational selling and how we use a lot of those same tools and speaking materials in our coaching conversations as well as our selling conversations. And then the plan of action, the coaching plan. And we're going to look at that as well. We have an individual coaching plan for you. I don't know if you guys got to look at it, but we'll go into it in a little bit more detail today. So we'll start with the S in BOSS, which is support. All of you have been going to the workshops and things like that. You've been seeing this for a long time, our BOSS acronym, right? So now we're in support, and coaching is one way you can support your team. You're going to really help them to lather, rinse, and repeat all of the skills that they need in order to grow their Avon business. So we'll really get into that today. So think back about a person that you knew. It could be a boss, a coach, a mentor, a neighbor, a family member, a friend, whoever, right? Who would you say was the greatest coach you ever knew? And then what made them great? This is what I want to hear. So, what was so great about them, and what would you want to emulate about them in your own coaching? Anybody think of anybody?
The first district sales manager I had was awesome. Um, I had been really sick and had a lot of issues and had no intention of staying with Avon any longer than from November to after Christmas that I could get what I needed. But she sat down with me and saw potential in me and helped me so much, helped me learn about color because was able to, one of the girls actually quit and she gave me her business in town. And it was more people that worked in offices and they were very interested in color and makeup. And I was good at that for myself, but I really did not have a clue about how to recommend it for someone else. And at that time, we didn't have all the tools that we have now. We did not have the online training. We did not have the information in the brochures. There was just a lot we did not have. But I have to say, I give her credit for helping me the first year especially. She really helped me. I rode with her. I went with her. I learned a lot about the surrounding area that I had never been to. We actually recruited in a laundromat, which I would not do today, but she was very instrumental in helping me get my Avon career started. And I always will appreciate it.
Great. So what's the one biggest quality about her that you'd like to emulate with your team, or maybe you do already?
Well, she was very hands-on.
Okay.
Like I learned from her by doing. And at that time, we were having sales meetings at like hotels and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to learn. So everything that she offered me the opportunity to do, I would do. I would help set up the sales meetings. We had little workshops then that nothing like, what we have available now, but we would do makeovers and color and things like that. I would say probably she showed me by doing, and she modeled what Avon, to me, she modeled what Avon is all about.
Great. So
she's very hands-on.
So she modeled for you, and then in turn, you did, and she coached.
That's right.
Perfect. Great. Yeah, I think we can all.
She was awesome.
Woohoo. Anybody else have anybody they can think of? Well, yeah, I think what Jackie said kind of sums it up for all of us. I'm sure we can think of somebody like that in our life. I mean, I think back to teachers I've had. I think back to, a boss I've had in the past that has definitely, and still is for me, we don't even work for the same company anymore, right? And she's still somebody, she now comes to me sometimes, right? But she's the first person I pick up the phone to, ask a question or run an idea by. And she always coaches me and is there for me and supports me, even though, again, we're in totally different roles, totally different companies. But, I respect her as a businesswoman. So great. I love that. So continue to keep that in mind. So before we explore how to coach, it's extremely important to understand who. And we talked a little bit about this. I think almost all of us that we had our one-on-ones last week kind of got into this a little bit. But a recent study published by Harvard Business Review identified that most coaches spend time coaching poor performers and high performers while ignoring their core performers. So think about individuals who you coach today. You may not think of it as formal coaching because we haven't really gotten into that yet, but I know that there are some team members that get more attention than others, right? For all of you, I'm sure you can think of a few that, you give a little bit more attention to. So coaching poor performers often feels appropriate as there's nowhere to go but up, right? So you have to consider, though, that these individuals might not be in the right role to begin with based on their skill set. So have you guys ever, and I know you have because we've talked about it, but have you ever spent a bunch of time coaching someone who did not perform? And then what was their issue? It happens to me all the time.
We all have people like that.
Yep.
I have someone right now that I'm working with, and she keeps saying, but this is going on, and this is going on. And I say, you know what? That's life. It happens to all of us. And if you're going to have a business, you have to run your business in spite of, or, you have to. I've had a lot of things happen in my life, and I've been very fortunate that this is my business, and I continue to run my business. And a lot of people let personal things get in the way, and I can certainly see how that can happen. But especially now with flex ordering and the flexibility we have, if you're really serious about your business, you can work around issues.
Yep. So Jackie's got
So
the excuse makers, I call them. So somebody
I do.
who keeps feeding you excuses, right? And then not just the
Yes.
poor performance, we coach high performers, right? Because they're easy, they're more fun, and some of these individuals aren't necessarily motivated to change something that isn't broken. So that's why it's really hard too. You tend to go to the high performers because you see a result or you're excited or they're in the same mindset as you. But then you're like, oh, wow, well, they don't want to do anything else. They're good where they are, right? So research shows that it's actually the core or mid-tier performers that represent the biggest opportunity for impacting your team's overall performance. Even a moderate improvement of coaching those core performers is said to improve performance by 19%. So, prioritizing your coaching time wisely by seeking out high potential core performers that are enthusiastic and open to feedback is what's going to give you those results. So, you can see this kind of on that diagram, right? Those core performers.
Hmm.
So, we're going to talk about them. And it's not to say that you're not going to spend time with poor performers or high performers. You're going to just spend the bulk of your time with those core performers, right? So, something a little different to think about. Whoops, my slides aren't advancing. I apologize. So there's an old adage that says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So being someone that others want to follow comes down to empowering individuals to be the best version of themselves. It's not about doing things for them, leading alongside them, or micromanaging every moment. Instead, it's about building them up, supporting their efforts, and coaching them to become a leader. When you do this, you empower people to become the entrepreneur that they see themselves being. In turn, this can bring amazing Avon opportunity to others, right? Because you've built them up. So now they're ready to share that with the world. So, coaching your team can help you grow your Avon business, obviously. It enriches the lives of your team. Your team can support you as you reach your dreams. The coach approach is about developing trusted relationships through intentional interactions designed to build confidence through inspiring a person's heart. Ha ha, does this look familiar? So, we'll talk about each of these elements today, but what it's showing for those of you who can't see on the screen is it's basically showing that heart and belief that we did in our very first seminar together. Perfect. So before you begin coaching someone on your team, it's important to follow these steps. You want to first ask for permission, get to know their heart, their belief, their why, right? Build a trusted relationship and then identify their coaching priorities. These steps contribute to building trust with the person and respecting their needs and their wants. So once you identify someone that you would like to coach, you need to ask for permission. So here's an example, and it tells you on the screen, share what you like, why you would like to coach her. Yes, I think always start with a positive, talk about their performance and what they're doing well, ask what they think, how do they think everything's going, and then asking for permission. If they say yes, obviously start building the relationship. If they say no, that's okay. Acknowledge that, and then you want to make sure they know though that you're there for them for support whenever they need it going forward, even if they don't want that formal coaching relationship. And then just look for somebody else. So move on, right? Here's an example. So you're doing so well with your Avon business. I have some ideas that I think might help you achieve even more. I would love to coach you. What do you think? I like to take something that's actually happening. So, oh my gosh, Sally, I saw that you had a $200 sales increase last campaign. What are you doing? That is so amazing. And they talk to me a little bit and tell me what's going on. And then, well, great. Well, I actually have some other ideas that I think would be really helpful for you. I would love to, coach you or start having a coaching conversation with you. How would you like that? What do you think? So, same kind of thing. But you can make it more identifiable to that specific person. So in order to inspire an individual, you have to first understand that individual. You'll want to understand why they have a business, as well as what is important to them. By asking some of these questions, you can learn about the leader's heart. And it's right up here. It's exactly the same thing that we went over in your very first conversation with me. By asking some of these questions, you can learn about the leader's heart. What does she want out of life? What does she not want? You guys said like financial freedom, the money to whatever it is, send your granddaughter to college. What does she have? Why does she have a business? Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe they do it to be their own boss. Maybe they want that family time. They want to travel. How does running their Avon business make them feel? Empowered, independent, right? It makes them feel just good. A lot of you guys put, it makes me feel really good. I feel great about myself that I can do that for myself. And how has her business changed her life in a positive way? So she's made some new friends. She's grown more confident. She's able to spend more time with her children and doesn't have to worry about, where am I going to send them for daycare? And, I can't go to work because they're sick, that kind of thing. So think about a member of your team. Are you able to articulate the answers to these questions? Does anybody, and you guys don't have to go over it with me now, but can you guys think of somebody on your team right now that you can answer all these questions about that you may already know their heart and their belief?
There are several people I could answer that question.
Good, because it's part of the application guide. So if you guys have that out, it's going to ask you on the first page of the application guide to try to get through somebody that you want to coach, to try to get through their heart and belief, maybe without asking them, without having that conversation with them. Is there somebody you already know? And if not, then you're going to have the conversation. But then in turn, having the conversation with them and seeing if you were right or if you added stuff, because I know I told you guys this, but a lot of you I felt I knew really, really well, right? And then we would go into this conversation about your heart and your belief. And I learned, people that I've known since I started with Avon that I talk to on a, daily, weekly basis, that I learned some stuff about them that I never knew by going through this. So you may think you know it, but then by asking the question, you may actually get a different response, which I think is really great. So I think it's always good to go back to. And things change, right? So it could change for them. So we tend to think about the 3 R's when building trust. We want to be real, relatable, and reliable. To be real requires you to be authentic, realistic, and to share your story. So this leads to the individual being able to relate to you. Being relatable requires that you listen, you empathize, and you tailor your message to their story. So if a team member is struggling with how to manage their time more effectively, provide guidance based on our experience. This isn't just about leading by example, but helping your team realize that you were once in their shoes and you overcame many of the same obstacles that they're now facing. Seeing your success will make you more relatable and motivate them to strive for what you've accomplished. Right? And I'm sure you guys all have a mentor that you can think of that's done that for you. And then being reliable is all about establishing credibility, being consistent, and being present, right? So trust builds a really slow clock, right? So what might a coach do that can either build or erode trust? Do you guys have any personal examples of how someone's built really great trust with you or eroded that trust? I feel like we go to the erosion quicker than the build. Mm-hmm. Things.
Well, if you want to lose my trust, I do not like for someone to tell me something that's not true.
Yeah, a liar.
As a liar. I don't like. That's the number one thing that your word is your bond. If you
Mm-hmm.
If I tell you something, I try very hard to do what I say I'm going to do, and I just don't like people to not tell me the truth.
Yep, so. Agreed. And I'm sure we all have specific situations. Isn't it so much nicer for someone to just say, I don't know, than to tell you this big, long story about something that really isn't true? I'd way rather you be like, you know what? I have no idea. And that makes us real, too, by saying we don't know, because we're experts, yes, but we're not experts on everything. So if you don't know something, say you
We
don't
don't know
know.
it.
Absolutely. So I think that's a really amazing thing too, is to just have that humility and be like, you know what? I'm sorry, but I don't know the answer to that. I can find out, but I don't know. Instead of saying, oh, yeah, just go here and do this and you'll find it. And then you do that and it's not there, right? Same thing you kind of said it, practice what you preach, right? So, be that
Yes.
person who is doing what, you say you want them to do, you're also doing it. Fantastic. So it's a great idea to talk with your team members about their coaching priorities, and we talked about that a little, so you can help them in the areas that they feel are most important. So we've got the competency plan in front of you, and again, this probably, I know a couple of you can't see the screen, but that competencies where you did the check marks or the X's at the beginning, it's a really good idea to utilize this with someone that you are coaching as well, because you can kind of see, then where they feel like they excel and where they feel like they may have an opportunity and they may need a little bit more coaching in those specific areas. So by identifying those priorities, you can prioritize your coaching conversations to have maximum impact. Can you guys off the top of your head think of any areas, like as a team, your whole team, that you think is, and I know some of you can't see it, but if you remember back to those competencies that you really feel like your team needs a lot of coaching, or it could be someone specific on your team, but some people it's a team as a whole. They feel like they need more coaching in one particular area. I hear time management across the board. I hear meeting planning and meeting execution across the board. I hear social selling usually across the board. So those are just some of the ones I can tell you that I get the most of, probably, as far as, what people feel they need to work on as a team. Um, I don't, if you guys think of something different, please shout it out, but that's what I usually hear. It's where the biggest opportunities are. And if it's someone that's newer, it may be goal setting and creating strategies and things like that, right? They may have never analyzed their business before. So that may be something for them that they feel like they have a little bit more opportunity with. So it shows you this pyramid on here, and you guys can absolutely utilize this slide, or you can go back to your application guide that you did in the beginning and utilize this from the kickoff seminar to go over with your team or someone you're coaching on your team. So once you've accomplished these steps, you can begin to have coaching interactions. By now you have our permission, you know them well, and you have begun to establish that relationship. They have prioritized their coaching needs. They're feeling good about your relationship, and they're receptive to your ideas and your suggestions, right? So they're excited. They want to get this started. They're excited to see what's going to happen, and so are you. So if trust is required to build a relationship, intentional interactions can solidify that relationship. To build trust within each interaction, make sure you consider the following steps. Identify a need, understand what the individual is struggling to overcome, and it'll allow to provide relevant coaching. The problem is sometimes it's not as easy as the individual exclaiming, I have a weakness in this area, right? So a lot of times they're not going to just come out and say, I need help here. You have to identify that. So as a coach, what are some ways that we have in Avon to be able to identify maybe what the coaching priority is if they're not telling you that it's this? Can you think of some things that we have in place, or some supports we have in place, or something you could be doing in order to identify this?
You can look on Vibe and look at her sales, how often she sends an order in, if she's in leadership, if she's doing anything with her leadership. Pretty much that gives you a good bird's eye view of what's going on.
So reports, yep. So reports is a
Mhm.
great way to be able to see. You can look at reporting. You can look back at, 5 or 6 consecutive campaigns, or you could look at the whole year, whatever it may be, and you could kind of see what's going on, right? You can probably identify some other areas. What's another way we could maybe see that doesn't have to do with reports? It's something that Jackie's manager used to do with her, or she did with her manager.
I one time a long time ago we put books out all over downtown Monroe.
Hmm.
We had a new manager, and it was something she wanted us to just walk like 2 streets and go into the businesses and give an Avon book. And the person that went with me never opened her mouth the whole time.
Mm,
She never said here. She was not. That was at the beginning of my team. She was not on my team, but she was someone that I worked with.
great.
She never said a word. So
So that
that
definitely
a
can,
lot of people are not.
yeah, that
They're
definitely
not.
gives you a good
I mean,
idea.
yeah. So when you work, like when we've done events, Sandy's done lots of events with her key team members, and I have too. And you find out in the first 30 minutes who is good at doing that kind of thing and who is not comfortable. It's not in their comfort zone.
Yep. So shadowing. So figuring exactly right on point, Jackie. Thank you. Yeah. So if you go out with someone shadowing them, you may find out real quick that they are not good at conversational selling, that they have an opportunity there because they didn't say two peeps the whole time you were out. So how are they passing out
Mm-hmm.
books and how are they getting orders? And is that maybe why their sales are suffering? Probably, right? So you can definitely then create a coaching plan based on that. And you don't want to say, hey, that was an awful day. You didn't say 2 words, but you want to, start those open-ended questions, which we'll get into again, which is going right back to conversational selling. So coaching interactions are, again, like that conversational selling, right? You can see that identifying needs and investigating the why, the first steps in the coaching interactions are similar to the G and grow. So get to know her and her needs, and you should use the same skills as you do when selling. Ask good, open-ended questions to dig deeper with follow-up questions to understand more. So in Jackie's case of going out with one of her team members and her team member not saying anything, instead of being like, oh my gosh, do you know you have to talk to people? Like, you're not going to get a sale unless you talk to somebody. You could say, oh my gosh, it was great. You got out of your comfort zone today. You were out, passing out brochures. So tell me how you think it went. And she's like, I don't know. I was just so nervous. Great. So what were you nervous about? I was nervous someone was going to say no. Why does saying no to you make you nervous? Continuing to just build on it, right? You're just asking open ended questions. You're going to eventually get to what is holding this person back. And then you can come up with that solution. So instilling confidence in the coaching interaction aligns again with the R and the O in grow. So investigating why, instilling confidence, right? You need to recommend some possible solutions. So offering stories and best practices to motivate her and try to see if the solution can make a difference. So again, I'm just going to use Jackie's interaction. I'm just kind of going off the fly today, but you found out that maybe in her life she's never had to speak to people. She sat behind a desk in a cubicle and pulled numbers all day and never had to talk to anybody. So it's very much out of her comfort zone. She doesn't feel like she knows how to do it. So you could say something like, oh my gosh, I know I felt the same way when I first started. I mean, it's not out in anybody's comfort zone to just go up to somebody and speak to them, out of turn when they're not having a conversation. But I know you can get better at it if you practice. So let's talk about some different ways we can get together and practice, right? So maybe doing some role models, maybe going out with one of your top sellers to see how they speak, right, to people, just continuing to practice. Sometime, unfortunately, they do have to get out of their comfort zone and try it, though. And you can let them know it's okay. It's okay if you screw up. It's okay if you flub over your words. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. We'll keep trying until we get there. So inspiring the action, right? In the coaching conversations, you're working to establish those next steps, which is the W and grow. We want to work with this member to identify what she can do to practice her skills. I just said this, or try new approaches soon after the interaction. So something new, collaborating on a call to action, getting their commitment and follow up to see how it went. So if they're not immediately with you next time, like I said, maybe they went out with one of your top sellers, how did it go? And then celebrating any little success. So she finally talked to somebody and they took a book from her. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment in itself. Even if she just said, "Hi, would you like an Avon book?" Right? Because she said no words when she was out with Jackie. So just by saying those little words, you want to celebrate. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. How did that feel? See, how many more people do you think you can talk to today? And that can be all it is. It's baby steps, right? Especially when you've got someone that's that timid. So not only do selling conversations and coaching interactions involve similar steps, they also require one important skill: listening with questions. As a coach and as a salesperson, it's vital to ask a lot of good, open-ended questions and listen carefully to the person you're speaking with. There are a broad range of benefits from effective questioning, from being able to connect in more meaningful ways to helping individuals self-discover opportunities for growth and ideas for improvement. Do's and don'ts of effective questioning. I kind of went through it a little, but keep questions brief and clear and try not to clarify or rephrase the question. This often creates confusion. So ask open-ended questions. We've talked about this in conversation of selling. Avoid yes/no questions by starting the question with why or how. This prompts the individual to think for themselves. You can't get a discussion going if you only require a one-syllable response. Then asking follow-up questions that don't lead the witness, and try not to answer your own question in the follow-up question. For example, what is contributing to your increase in team sales? And then they don't say anything, right? And you're like, well, was it the new brochure? You just answered it for them. Even if that wasn't the answer, they're going to say it was because they don't know. And then ask the question and then listen. Don't be afraid of silence. Be patient. Waiting is a signal that you want thoughtful participation. Count to yourself while the individual thinks. The silence rarely lasts more than 10 seconds. And I think this group is a good example of that because I'll just be silent. And one of you will chime in because nobody likes that awkward silence. So even if you don't want to talk, one of you is like, all right, I'm saying something because I'm not going to sit here and hear, nothing, right? So they're going to chime in. They're going to say something, even if it's, you know what, I don't know. I never thought about that. So active listening is just as, if not more important than a good questioning strategy. This is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to being real. So imagine if you're in a meeting with me and in the middle of the conversation, I take a call and leave you hanging for like 5 or 10 minutes. How you guys going to feel? I'm just going to do it right now. Hang on, my cell phone's ringing. I'm just going to put you guys on hold. You don't have anything else to do today, right? Let me get that. Let me see who's calling me. You're gonna feel bad, right? It's gonna make you feel like you're not important.
Mm-hmm.
I would hang up if somebody did it to me. I'd be like, I'm not waiting. Who she thinks she is? So be reliable and listen to your coachee. It only takes seconds to begin that eroding trust. So what Jackie was talking about earlier, that's part of eroding trust by not making them feel important. You want to do this. You want to listen without opinion, clear your head, and focus on the person. It says make sure your cell phone is off. Sometimes we can't do that, but we can maybe silence it, or, for you guys, what I do is I turn them over. Because an emergency might come up, you want to make sure it's there, but I can't turn my phone off, but I can definitely flip it over. I do close my email when I get on these calls with you. That is not on this list, but that's another thing. My email will pop up and I'm like distraction mode. So I close it right out so it won't come up on my computer. reflect to ensure you're talking less and listening more. So halfway through the conversation, take stock. Am I talking too much? Am I talking too little? I could tell you guys my biggest opportunity is I talk too much. So it's something that I'm really trying to work on as a coach is listening more and talking less. I think for all of us it's kind of like that, but it's it's a different one for me. I feel like when there's awkward silence that I have to fill it. So I'm trying to step back. So that's just something, and they like everybody knows I have it on part of my coaching plan as a coach that I'm trying to do that. Um, and I'm also trying to come up with more open-ended questions so that I have an arsenal of those questions when speaking to someone. And also not listening when I'm listening more as you guys are talking and not jumping in or not trying to think of the next question I'm going to ask before, like as you're talking. I want to make sure I'm truly taking in everything that you're saying. So here's an example of a coaching interaction. This is Jill. She's a bronze ambassador. She's eager to build her business. You've been coaching her for a few months now. She's clearly communicating that she's having trouble recruiting new team members. Oh, we don't hear that ever. In anticipation of next week's coaching conversation, put yourselves in the position of the coach in this scenario. What questions might you ask when investigating why Jill is unable to recruit new team members? What are some questions we could ask Jill to find out why she's unable to recruit new team members?
We could ask her, is she out talking to people to start off with?
No. What kind of question is that?
No.
No,
That's not an open-ended.
I was just being Jill. That's what I would say. No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's hard.
Well,
It's hard because we want to tell them the answer right from the get-go. That's the solution, Jackie, right? The solution would be Jill needs to be out talking to more people, right? Because she's probably not, but we don't know
right.
that until we are asking these open-ended questions. So think of something like, why do you think you're having a hard time recruiting? Because I don't know what to say. Okay, so you don't know what to say. Have you recruited ever before in one of your other jobs or in a different role? Has recruiting ever been part of your life before? Well, no. Okay. Anything else you can say? I mean, this happens to us all the time, right? And we automatically go to, well, how many people are you talking to every day? That's what I say. How many people are you out talking to every day? And they say, I don't talk to people every day. They're like, maybe one or two a week. And I'm like, okay, one or two a week. And then they usually start talking, right? And uncovering, oh, well, I probably should talk to more people than that, right? What are you saying when you're talking to those one or two people every week? What words are you using? Because that gets you into, are they utilizing conversational selling, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So, what are you saying? That's my favorite one. What are you saying when you're out? Because she's clearly saying, now I'm out recruiting. I go out. I only talk to one or two people a week, but maybe she only has 30 minutes once a week. We don't know that yet until we ask her. And she says, oh, I'm just saying, hey, would you like to make an extra $100 in the next 2 weeks? Okay. I think that's great. Great. What do you think you can say differently? What can you do differently? Do you know about conversational selling? That's a close-ended question, but we can elaborate on it more because if they don't, we can show them, right? How many names and numbers did you get last week while you were out talking to those one or two people? I didn't get any. I didn't ask. So why didn't you ask? Do you see where I'm going? It's a little bit different. Believe
I
me,
do.
sometimes you're still going to go back and revert to listen. Because sometimes you've got those certain people who don't know. They're like, I really don't know what you're getting at here, lady. Um, they're the excuse makers. I do everything I can. I talk to 5 people a day. I get their name and number. I follow up. I do it all until you really start digging in deeper and really figuring out like something's going on. It's something that they're saying or not creating the relationship or not having that confidence. And then sharing your story to instill the confidence. So, again, letting them know, listen, here's what worked best for me when I was out recruiting in the past. I'd love to show you what I do. Um, Again, putting them together with either yourself or your top recruiter, right? And then the biggest thing is you want them to self-discover. So again, by using those digging deeper questions to really figure out, it may stem from something, again, where they just, who knows, that, they've never gone up to somebody and asked them. They want to shadow somebody on your team. Nobody's ever showed them how to do it before. They literally just thought that's what you said. Hey, I made $100 in my first 2 weeks with Avon. How would you like that? And that's how they thought you did it. I mean, you're going to uncover so many different scenarios as you start to dig deeper with these questions. And then this is the coaching plan. So I sent you guys, I think it was the reference guide, the coaching plan, and the application guide on Friday. The coaching plan is for you. So in the past, I have had leaders in the program share this with me if they want to. This is completely up to you. This is a tool for you for when you're having the coaching conversation to really have a plan and a purpose for that person that you're coaching. So you have their heart and everything on the first page. The second page is those competencies. So what competencies they want to work on. And then the last 2 pages are as you speak to them, the date you're speaking to them, the topic or competency. I mean, it could be recruiting, it could be planning, it could be whatever, social selling, whatever the topic is, your plan, the result, and your next steps. And this is literally just for you to keep track. This is not required for you to give back to me. So I hope nobody saw this and was like, wow, 6 pages this time, Jess, thanks a lot. No, but as we go through this and we go through the next module, working the plan and then wrap up, this is something I really, challenge you guys to utilize in your coaching conversations because it will help you be more organized. It will especially help you as you start coaching multiple people in order to keep track of who you're coaching and what topic you're coaching on. And then it's a great thing to go back to right before you have your next coaching conversation with that person in order to just give yourself a quick overview of everything you've talked about thus far. Okay, so again, this is totally for you to use. Like I said, some people have shared it with me when we do our one-on-one because they had it filled out and they had a coaching conversation and they loved it and they wanted me to know about it. That is completely up to you, not required in any way, okay? If you have questions on it, ask me. And then you've got your application guide. Again, I told you about the first page already. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but it's literally the heart and belief, the very same thing you filled out. It's just saying select a member of your team that you might want to coach. Before you contact them, reflect on what you know about them, which is what I already said, right? And then write in here everything you think they're going to say, and then contact them and see what they actually say. Were you spot on? Did you know about this team member that in depth, or did you learn some new things about them by asking them these questions? And then you're going to identify those 1 to 2 potential team members that you want to coach. And some of you already did this during planning. So this should be easy peasy. These people might already be on your calendar that you're going to, start to have these conversations with. I know a lot of you spoke to that on our one-on-ones. And then what are you going to do to ask for permission? Come up with 3 open-ended questions to get to know their heart and belief, and then prep for that conversation. So it gives you a scenario and what you would say in response to that scenario in order to identify and clarify this person's need. And then coming up with 2 open-ended questions to investigate why someone is struggling, which we just kind of went through. And then instilling confidence. So coming up with examples of stories that relate to someone, recommending solutions that have worked for you in the past, inspiring action. So come up with a possible next step, right? What are we going to do next? Be specific and follow up. So we're going to do a role play, or I'm going to send her out with my top leader and they're going to recruit for an hour, and she's going to be able to, watch her role model how to do this, and then follow up. What did she learn? When is she going to put it into action, right? And then who will you prepare to coach is your call to action. So who's it going to be? What's their name? And it may be more than one person, but really in this, I'm just looking for that one person that you've identified that you definitely for sure are going to coach. And you may already have coached them once we have this conversation. That's completely up to you. Questions on the application guide? Good, guys. Look at us, right at an hour. I'm loving it. So our next hot topic question is going to be, who has most influenced your success with your Avon business and why? And I am going to pull up my calendar really quick. We are still on for our collaboration on the 20th. The reason why I'm looking at this, guys, is our last couple seminars and our last couple weeks probably of the program are going to be a little messy because PC tributes start. So I'm going to try to stick to schedule as much as I possibly can, but we may have to do a little bit earlier. We may have to adapt a little bit. Like we've got Working the Plan seminar on the 23rd, and I'm traveling that day to Roanoke. So we may have to try to do it in the morning, but we'll talk about that on our collaboration when we get together on the 20th. And you guys can kind of decide what you want to do. I'll let you guys figure out how we want to look at that. But I will be traveling to Roanoke that day, and I do need to leave before 1 o'clock. So we'll have to refigure, and I won't be back until Wednesday evening. So we'll have to maybe do it Monday morning or something like that if that works out for you guys. And then I'm just seeing if I have any other tributes in that last week. Wrap up seminar, I think I might be, oh no, so we have the Charlotte tribute the very last week of our wrap up. It will interfere. All right, we'll figure it out when we get there. We might have to do the wrap up collaboration on like maybe Monday the 14th or something like that. There doesn't have to be one-on-one scheduled that last week unless you guys want them, and they're only 30-minute one-on-ones. Again, I'll continue to go through this. I don't want to confuse anybody as we get closer to the end of the program. But you guys, this is basically this and wrap up are this and Working the Plan. Working the Plan is next, are our last 2 full weeks together. Okay, so you've got this one and you've got the next one. And I know I've got a couple people making up this week their one-on-ones from planning because of scheduling things. So everybody's on track though to complete the program on time and you'll get your certificate and everything. So it's super exciting. So now you guys have got the coach approach, right? You've got it down. You can help your team members grow their business and become more confident. So remember that coaching is about the person you're coaching. Be interested, not interesting. Ask a lot of questions, listen carefully. Don't worry about those awkward pauses. I promise it'll be okay. Somebody will talk, and learn about their heart and lead them to self-discover their own solutions instead of just giving them the answer all the time. Okay? Everybody good? Anybody have anything else they need to bring to the table? Any questions? Anything like that? Everybody's so quiet today. Except Jackie.
I'm good.
Jackie talked the whole time. I love it. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I will speak to everyone on one-on-ones. If you have any conflicts, let me know, and then we'll have our collaboration on our normal scheduled time on Friday the 20th at 1. And then if you guys need me, I'm here for you. Just let me know, and I'll speak to everybody soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the day and a wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.